Salesman's joke. To whatever degree they were aware of the 1920 Ponzi fraud and its reverberating influence on business practices in later decades, there were powerful lessons offered to Mittinger and Castleberry in 1943 as they formulated the plan for Neutralite. Not the least of the lessons was a popular belief gripping America's imagination. A business model actually existed somewhere that was capable of producing perpetual and extraordinary income for all participants, delivering to the common man what was once available to only the elite, thus fulfilling the promise of the American dream. It was clear that such a plan could provoke a national mania, in which tens of thousands of people will throw their money and hope into it with virtually no due diligence. Most people do not grasp or are willfully blind to the mathematical trick in the endless expansion model, which Mittinger understood well when he made it the mainstay of his new Neutralite sales incentive. The capacity of the endless chain scheme to escape discovery was demonstrated when, even when Ponzi's fraud was exposed, many of the victims blamed the government, banks, and Wall Street elites for the collapse, while continuing to hold Ponzi innocent and maintain faith in the scheme's promise of wondrous returns. In the official account of the plan to convert Neutralite into the first multi-level marketing business, no provision was made by Mittinger and Castleberry to conceal the factor of unsustainable, impossible expansion. No cover story was invented, such as postal coupon trades as Ponzi had concocted for an external funding source. Between Mittinger and Castleberry, and later to millions of new recruits, the mathematical impossibility of the Neutralite plan would be openly acknowledged. Each new investor's profit would always come from future levels investments and expenditures, to be called teams or downline. Aggregately, most or all commissions, the only possible source of profit, would come from the salespeople's own investments in the form of some sales and, most important, their own product purchases and fees paid to participate. Far from concealed, the inherent implausibility of Mittinger and Castleberry's plan and the financial harm it would cause were treated merely as a salesman's joke, as related in Renborg's biography when Mittinger explained it to Castleberry. Gained from the cruelest of economic schools, door-to-door cemetery plot sales, the joke reflected their mutual understanding that in sales there is always inside information not available to the customer or the public at large. No matter how lowly, every salesman carries this information as his power, his payback for the rejections and disrespect he endures. Without having examined the sales dramaturgy or dissected the role-playing as Yale professor Arthur Leff would do 20 years later, both men fully understood that the benefits promised by the salesman, whether in exaggerations of qualities or attributes related to the product, or in some other aspect of the sales promotion, are mostly a chimera. The external source of reward, facilitating the, quote, bargain, and the narrative about mutual need and mutual benefit if the deal is done, are just part of a carefully directed and contrived tale. The customer's belief that they are making rational decisions is, the salesman knows, mostly an illusion. In reality, the salesman makes it happen with information he does not share. The salesman's joke, therefore, is always on those who are not in possession of that key information and who can be directed, even controlled, by scripted promises, logic, and benefits. This is the universal secret knowledge salespeople hold, the tools of their trade. In sales management ranks, where the battle-weary Mittinger had worked so many years, the inside joke is first played on the hapless new salespeople whose labor and expenditures are key to the manager's profit. Part of this trickery is to divert the new salesperson by telling him of the great profit he will gain by carrying out this same type of subterfuge on his customers. During the recruiting and training process, and in the early stages of work, freshman salespeople do not know about their future sales costs, time requirements, the actual value of leads, if there is any, dramatized in David Mamet's play and film Glengarry Glen Ross, and how the commission schedule pays out in practice after time and costs. They don't even know the truth about the product they try to sell. They can be maneuvered to expend time and resources that profit their managers with little or no benefit to themselves, to work through sales leads that may provide minimal profit opportunity but carry costs managers cleverly transfer to their own accounts. The salespeople, especially the newest ones, can be directed to say things about the products that may be blatantly false, but which, when exposed, only the lowly salesperson will be held accountable for telling the customer. In the Castleberry-Mittinger discussion, the electrifying hope that a Ponzi expansion and transfer plan would ignite among unwitting new sales recruits, giving them all the apparent chance to become kingpins, is deeply appreciated. Indeed, its wondrous benefits were the stuff of Mittinger's own fantasy, based on a lifetime of frustrating, inconsistent, and for the most part, barely profitable sales work. He would know that his own hopes and fantasy would be shared by every other salesperson who ever knocked on a door. The promise of unending expansion and unlimited profit was told as a, quote, joke by Mittinger because he knew that those who got excited by the promise would be those who did not realize its impossibility or ultimate consequences. In 1943 to 1945, when Mittinger and Castleberry sold Renborg on the plan, Neutralite remained marginal, barely surviving. Renborg appears to have little to do with the formulation, other than to buy into its potential for vastly expanding production of his potions. He may be viewed historically as the first person to be sold an MLM endless chain proposition. In his case, he would be the first one in, guaranteed to be rewarded. He will be followed by legions of losers, brunts of the salesman's joke, from whose losses he ultimately benefited. They would become the proverbial last ones in, destined to lose. Conning